The university held tryouts for the new general, the Jaguar. Find out more. Coverage on San Antonio's election day and the outcome of Proposition A and B. And in sports, find out how the university's softball team finished their debut season and the winner of the 2021 Kentucky Derby. Hello and welcome to the last episode of Enlace for the spring 2021 semester. I am your host, Katelyn Silva, and today we will be bringing you the latest in campus and community news from our new studio located in the CAB building on the second floor. The university is hosting tryouts to find the new person who will become General the Jaguar and represent the school spirit. Alejandro Diaz has more details on the tryouts to find the new mascot.
General the Jaguar has been A&M San Antonio's mascot since 2014 and is usually seen in school events displaying school pride and spirit. But now, tryouts are open to find a new general who will have a chance to compete for a national championship at the Dance Team United or DTU competition in Orlando, Florida. Courtney Bob Meilinger, coach of the Jaguarettes, saw there was a mascot category at DTU and immediately saw an opportunity.
So I actually called and they're like, yeah, we have a mascot collegiate championship where, mascots from colleges all over the United States come and they do like a dance performance and skit. And then we score and rank them and they become national champions. And I was like, hello, we have a mascot. Let's do this.
Besides the virtual application, participants have to meet certain physical criteria, such as a height requirement that ranges between 5'3" and 6'2", but that's not all.
We actually will require the individual that makes the mascot to actually have a physical. They will need to actually have a physical done because, you're in a suit, it gets hot, and we need to make sure that, obviously you're going to be safe while you are becoming general. And so it's just, a safety protocol that we actually have a physical done.
Angela Roth is a biology major who previously embodied General the Jaguar and shares her experience.
You get to your basics, you get to be a general. Like you kind of, once you step into that costume, you just come alive. It's amazing. And once they got in the costume, I think they would see it too.
Roth also remembers the encounter with a famous San Antonio mascot.
Meeting other mascots is a lot of fun. I got to meet the Spurs Coyote and we played basketball together.
Rolando Guerrero Camacho is a psychology junior who is also a former general and gives advice on how to assume that role.
How do you want to express that love or that enthusiasm to others? And the way I usually saw that was through body language, because that's the only way, either by walking really funny, by doing some quirks. It's just own it, basically what I would say. Just own that personality.
Virtual applications can be found on Handshake. For Enlace, Alejandro Diaz.
Devastation was brought to Hondo, Texas after a natural disaster struck, causing massive damages to the community. Our reporter Garcia gives us more on the story.
Tragedy struck Hondo on April 28th as a thunderstorm turned from bad to worse in a matter of hours. What was supposed to be just rain and thunder turned to baseball-sized hail and an EF1 tornado with wind speeds of 110 miles per hour.
So during the storm, me and my family, we went into our half bath bathroom, and while we were in there, we were just trying to listen to the radar and the news on our phone, and once it started happening, hail was hitting our roof, and it sounded like bricks were just being thrown at our roof. And then once the tornado started to progress or whatever, we could hear it almost sounded like a train outside our house, and we were just freaking out, and it was really scary for us.
During the storm, the hail and strong winds destroyed many citizens' property, including their houses, cars, personal items, and much more.
We looked out the front yard, and a tree, it was a big ash tree that had, the branches split. It was two huge branches, and one of the branches was kind of lower, and it completely split. Our tree got split into two, and it landed on my daughter's car. Thankfully, none of us are hurt.
After the storm, families were able to see what was damaged and began figuring out what they needed to do next.
We had horse trailers that were blown over and literally turned over. 2 horse trailers that happened to. Our trees, of course, are a mess. Yesterday we worked in the mud and muck and tried to formulate a plan and get together everything that we could find that was important and salvageable. And we had friends come and help us cut tree limbs down and dangerous things that needed to really try to, get those taken care of.
According to Hondo's mayor, there was no report of injuries or fatalities, and as of now, the community is starting to recover from any damages they experienced a little at a time. For Enlace, this was Dee Garcia.
After the break, we'll take a look on final results from Election Day.
Welcome back. My name is Nilse Hernandez, and in community news, there were major propositions on the ballot in this year's election. Here's more on the results.
Flash flood advisories and a downpour of rain did not stop voters from going out to cast their votes on May 1st. San Antonio voters would decide mayoral, city council, proposition, and school board elections this year. There was also a record-breaking voter turnout. According to the Elections Department, by 7 p.m. on Election Day, there was a reported 115,000 absentee and early votes. I spoke with a local voter at the San Antonio Central Library who talked about their view on voter turnout.
I think surprisingly there's a lot of younger people coming out to vote, but there's still skepticism among the young people about whether voting makes a difference.
One of the most popular topics of this year's election was Proposition B, which sought to strip the police union of its right to collectively bargain with the city. This charter amendment was defeated by a narrow margin of 51% against and 49% in support. Another big topic was the mayoral election, where Ron Nirenberg was reelected with 61% of votes and will serve his 3rd term as mayor of San Antonio. For more information on the results of the elections, go to sanantonio.gov. For Enlace, this is Nilse Hernandez.
Proposition B was known as the opportunity to change the police department in the city. Votes were close, but the decision was made against it. Lizbeth Perez brings us more on the topic.
For the past year, we've seen the actions and cases that have been committed from police establishments all over the country. Fix SAPD is an activist organization that aims to reform the police department here in San Antonio through their Proposition B. The way they will do that is by minimizing the collective bargaining rights power to change how contracts are negotiated between the city and police union. During early voting week and on May 1st, the public was able to cast their vote on that topic. Deputy Director for Fix SAPD, Ananda Tomas, tells us more why it was important to put this proposition on the ballot.
We're taking a look at why it's so hard for officers to be held accountable for their actions. And whether you were looking at cases here or around the nation, there were lots of officers that had previous infractions on their record that clearly should not have been serving.
The amount of supporters for the Fix SAPD proposal was more than they could have expected. With the voter turnout breaking a new record of 150,000 votes, it's no surprise they've lost by a small percentage.
We had more folks vote on Proposition B than we did for mayor. It was clear that this is what turns our record-breaking turnout. 150,000 people voted in a municipal race. That's never happened before.
Move Texas, a grassroots organization that focuses on informing and encouraging more people to come out and vote, were working side by side with Fix SAPD during this election period. Advocacy organizer Aaron Arguello explains more.
It was really great to work with them because I think, we both do a lot of the same kinds of work when it comes to the advocating for policy, but they have such a strong data component, identifying voters and supporters. So it was great.
This election might be over, but the work and efforts aren't coming to stop anytime soon. Fix SAPD will continue to push forward with their agenda to reach justice where they believe is needed in San Antonio's police department.
Ready to do the next thing. We're taking this week off to rest because campaigns are a little insane and taxing, but we're ready to get back at it and go after 143 and continue building this coalition and to keep educating the public.
This has been Lizbeth Perez with Enlace News.
On the other hand, Proposition A will now allow the city of San Antonio to use bond money on things like affordable housing. Find out how to be a part of that decision. Katelyn Silva tells us more.
The city of San Antonio will now be able to spend bond money for affordable housing after the passing of Proposition A during the May 1st elections. The decision to support where this money will be used in the next 5-year bond program will be up to the voters, according to the city's housing bond administrator, Jamie Lawley Dameron.
This charter amendment language does give the city a lot more flexibility with its charter language to issue debt, but it's still going to be up to the voters to decide whether or not they want to support that debt.
The current funding plan includes the use of money towards anything that falls under public works. The charter language has been changed to include public purposes, which allows funding for affordable housing projects. Francine Romero, chair of the Department of Public Administration at UTSA, talks about how citizens can get involved before the city issues these bond programs.
People could contact their city council office and volunteer to be on one of these citizen bond committees. But that's where it starts, is with the citizen bond committees, which vet these proposals. And then they send it back to city council. Sometimes it'll be changed from what staff initially recommends. So there's that, and then paying attention when council votes, because you can still call your council member and state your opinion. But then finally, when it comes on the ballot, to be really clear on what it is you're voting for.
The next bond program is set to be voted on in May of 2022. Reporting for Enlace, Katelyn, Silva.
One candidate running for District 5 is heading to a runoff election on June 5th. Xander Chavarria tells us more on the topic.
A runoff election is soon to take place for a seat in City Council. District 5 is one of the most poverty-stricken districts in San Antonio. One of its greatest challenges is public housing. One candidate that looks to address this issue, Terry Castillo, was out meeting the voters at the Las Palmas voting site.
Many of our families are still struggling to pay rent, utilities, and stay housed. So one of our priorities is, one, to ensure that we continue to fund the Emergency Housing Assistance Program to ensure that, in a time when housing is indeed healthcare, that our neighbors can afford to continue to stay housed.
I spoke with Texas Organized Projects Executive Director, an organization that has endorsed Castillo, on what she would mean to the community of District 5.
That's why we back Terry, because she's going to go into office and look for every way that she can to give our people back more power.
Castillo did finish election night with 2,073 votes to second place Rudy Lopez's 991. The runoff election will take place June 5th. With Enlace News, I'm Xander Chavarria.
When we come back, find out how the university softball team finished their debut season. This and more in Jaguar Sports.
Welcome to Jaguar Sports. I'm Robby Chavez. Let's get right into the action. The Texas A&M San Antonio softball team hit the road this last weekend for their final series of the season against the University of Houston Victoria, where they held tough early, losing the first game just 2-1. However, they lost the second game 11-3 and went down in a sweep 4-2. There was a high note to the season as several A&M San Antonio softball players were named to the all-conference team, including Mel Gonzalez, Katelyn Rangel, Sydney Garza, Ebby Rodriguez, and also named to the Champions of Character team, Cameron Caceres. And in NBA action, the San Antonio Spurs took on the Utah Jazz. There's a look at Donovan Mitchell not suiting up for the Utah Jazz. This would be the second night in a row for the Spurs against the Jazz. There's DeMar DeRozan, gets the Spurs going early. And then Lonnie Walker with the slam here. The Spurs were looking okay early. Walker with another slam, but the Utah Jazz just executed too well. San Antonio's own Jordan Clarkson dropping dimes here. And then later in the game, Ingles to Clarkson behind the back pass to Niang, who buries the three, and the Utah Jazz take hold of the number 1 seed in the West, winning 126-94. Moving on to horse racing, it was an amazing race Saturday as the underdog Medina Spirit led wire to wire for the win. The Bob Baffert trained colt came into this race with plenty of second place finishes, but he got the big win in this one. As the Medina River was raging in San Antonio, Medina Spirit was raging in the Kentucky Derby. Mandaloun finished second, Hot Rod Charlie finished third, and up next is the Preakness Stakes, where he's expected to get a challenge from Bob Baffert's own trained horse, Concert Tour. Onto the soccer pitch of the Toyota field, and it was a perfect start to the season for the San Antonio FC that debuted on May 1st with a victory over the Colorado Switchbacks 3-0. Colombian striker Santiago Patino was the star of the night, scoring all goals for a hat trick that got him the Player of the Week honors for Week 2 of the United Soccer League. It's worth mentioning also that Patino's hat trick was only the second in club history. Fans got to enjoy this moment as the Toyota field had limited capacity for the home opener. Next up for the Red and Black is the Real Monarchs of Salt Lake City on May 8th at the Toyota field. And that's all we have for Jaguar Sports. When we come back, catch what's new and Have You Seen This Yet with Santa Perez.
Thank you for staying with us. Santa Perez brings us more in entertainment and Have You Seen This Yet?
Welcome back to Have You Seen This Yet? This week, I'll be giving a review for the Disney and Marvel miniseries, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. As always, be prepared for spoilers. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier ran between March 19th and April 23rd. During that time, viewers were blessed with episodes full of great action and drama that mixed well with humor that was both silly and witty. There might be few who will complain about certain subplots being unfulfilling and unsatisfying, but given that this is all set in a popular cinematic universe, it could be safe to assume that any unresolved issues will be at least discussed in later related projects. The elements of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier that deserve praise especially are the ones related to the outstanding characters and the actors who portrayed them. Newcomers to the MCU, such as Aaron Kellyman and Wyatt Russell, were able to make names for themselves by playing surprisingly worthy adversaries with multiple layers to them. Lead actors Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, however, deserve much acclaim for their performances, both together and separately. This is thanks in large part to their genuine chemistry and how they were able to handle emotional and intense scenes that would feature heavy subject matter like racism and mental health, all with the depth and honesty fans have come to expect from their favorite superheroes. All 6 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier are now available to stream on Disney+. This has been Santa Perez with Have You Seen This Yet?
Thank you for watching. Make sure you stay tuned for summer content of Enlace. See you next time.